stop for Davey Allison. More people might emerge on the lead lap after everybody completes their pit stop. And we have passed the halfway point. Davey Allison was sitting in the pits, revving the engine, letting Joey Knuckles and crew go to work as the halfway point went by.
I tell you, Bobby Allison continues to run the way he is. I'm sure this is going to change some thoughts on drivers as far as getting rest the night before an event. A lot of these guys went back to the hotels early, got an early dinner, and went to bed probably 8 or 9 o'clock so they could have plenty of rest and drink lots of fluids before today's race. Meanwhile, this old guy, we kid about Bobby being old, 49 years of age, he went and ran a 150, 200 lap event, stock car event, 700 miles of traveling last night. And I tell you, a lot of guys may say we're going to find some Saturday night short tracks to run if it brings Bobby this kind of luck on Sunday.
We mentioned that we have passed the halfway point. And those of you who watch ESPN are aware of our mid-race recap, which seems to be received favorably. Bobby Allison was the leader. By 16 seconds, the average speed slowed to 104 miles an hour. There had been 7 leaders, 9 changes of the lead, and 6 cautions for almost 50 laps. Continuing on the Napa mid-race report, you see the rundown of the caution flags there. A number of crashes, the number 37 car of Curtis Markham, the 43 car of Richard Petty, D.K. Ulrich on the front stretch, and the Morgan Shepherd, Rick Wilson incident, which also swept up Mike Potter right here underneath Harold Kinder also. A brief yellow flag at lap 162 to let the ambulance take Morgan Shepherd to the hospital. A list of the cars out of the race: Ron Shepherd, Curtis Markham, Steve Chrisman, Richard Petty, we mentioned, D.K. Ulrich, Dale Jarrett with engine problems, and Morgan Shepherd with significant damage to the car, both ends, front end and back end. Also, Mike Potter involved in the Shepherd incident. Harry Gant, the car seemed to just shut off. Maybe the computer took over again. And most recently, Jerry Bowman, although we understand they are still working on that car and hope to get it back out onto the track. Kyle Petty is also behind the wall, but the Woods brothers are working on that machine and hope to get it back onto the speedway. The top 5 at the halfway point: Bobby Davey, Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt, yep, he's up there again, and Brett Bodine. Eastern shore of the United States, it's 95 degrees. The humidity is somewhere between 70 and 100. Who cares? It's just darn hot. As we watch leader Bobby Allison, and in the pits, Buddy Baker. Now, we haven't mentioned much about Buddy today because he hasn't been flashing too many headlines. He's not been a marquee player. He's been out there all day. We've seen no problems from him. He's been outside of the top 15. He has lapped down to our leaders. We believe there are only 4, by the way. That number shrank rather than expanded as I thought it might on the lead lap. Buddy Baker, the Crisco Old, back out on the racetrack, back into the fray.
Yeah, Buddy Baker won the Winston Open at Charlotte, a couple of weeks ago as one of the, it was not a Winston Cup Tour event, but a pretty good win for Buddy. He picked up $30,000. I'll take that any day. That's a pretty good payday for Baker. And he came out and ran the Winston and finished back in the pack 18th overall in the Winston. So his best finish of the year, 4th at Daytona. But you remember on the ESPN Sunday afternoon coverage at Darlington, he had a shot to win it, but as he said, he tried to knock the wall down late in the race, and that was all of it over for him. There's Jeff Bodine on pit road. Gary Nelson and the crew going to work on the right side of that car. And this will be a scheduled stop for Bodine. He came in out of sequence with some of the other cars. And there's Jeffrey, 38 years of age, from Chemung, New York. Still holds the modified record here at Dover, Delaware for the 1 mile, over 145 miles per hour in a modified car. One of the Maynard Troyer cars he drove here, open wheel machine, years ago before he ever got on the Winston Cup Tour. It will be a 4-tire change for Bodine, taking no chances to have fresh rubber all the way around. He is down and away.
Bodine is down the lap. Who are those 4 people, Newber, you were talking about that are on the lead lap? Bobby, Davey Allison, the 11 car of Terry Labonte, and the blue and yellow car. The guy who lives down on Lake Norman. What's his name? Yeah. 4 people on the lead lap. Then close behind, but officially having lost the lap, Bill Parsons, Brett Bodine, Bobby Hillen Jr., Kenny Schrader, Jeff Bodine, and Bill Elliott a lap down.
We talked about the fines that were levied and the punitive actions against some of the drivers in the past couple of weeks, and the drivers were joking in the garage area this week. They were laughing, and they said, if you go up to any NASCAR official this week and say, "How you doing?" he's always going to say to you, "It's fine." How's the family? He says, "Fine." I asked Les Richards, who was coming up to the booth a little while ago, I said, "Les, how you doing today?" Les said, "Fine."
He says it's fine.
Yeah.
You can see Bobby Allison, moving in on Dale Earnhardt. We told you that Earnhardt was on the lead lap. Bobby Allison is getting ready to put up one lap on Darrell Waltrip, who is laps down, now make it, or 2 laps down. And if he gets around, Bobby Allison that is, around Dale Earnhardt, for one of the few times this year we will see Earnhardt under green be lapped by a fellow competitor. They move to the high side of Rick Wilson, and Bobby Allison begins to plot how he can first eclipse Darrell Waltrip and then the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt. The view that Rick Wilson has. Allison has just gone by. He goes to the inside of Darrell Waltrip, down the front stretch, looking at the Winston Tower above turn number 1. They dip down, clip the white line going into number 1. Drift up a little high in the midpoint of turns 2, or turns 1 and turn 2. Now back down on the white line. Bobby Allison is trying to get one lap on Dale Earnhardt. Our in-car cameraman doing an excellent job of giving us the view that is rapidly disappearing as Rick Wilson slips back.
And Rick is really, I mean, you got to give him a call. He is just trying to battle. He's swatting flies in there, running that steering wheel back and forth, trying to go back and forth to keep that car between the walls. A badly damaged car with that wreck early on. That's the victim with Morgan Shepherd, of course, and Mike Potter. He is just trying to hang on and finish here.
The turns last forever. We commented that you're in the straightaways about 5 seconds on the front stretch and 5 seconds on the back stretch, and that leaves about 30 other seconds that you're on the racetrack. Marty in Bodine's pit.
Yeah, the problem for Jeff Bodine, of course, is an overheating engine. I can't imagine why, with temperatures so high. They are pumping water all over this thing. It's amazing they haven't drowned out the spark plug wires the way the water's been flying around this pit. They've filled up the radiator again, and let's go down to Dick Berger because it looks like Jeff's going to be back out on track.
And I'm with Joey Knuckles. He's crew chief for Davey Allison. Joey, how is Davey feeling in the car?
Well, Davey's feeling real good. First of all, I'd like to thank Tony Price. He had a stomach ailment on his van coming up here, and he was able to make it with us today, and the old car is really working good for us. Davey hasn't said anything that, he'd like to get out of the car and slip burning a little bit, but, as good as we're running, we'll grin and bear it.
How about your tires? Have you blistered any tires today?
No, we're getting real perfect tire wear. We're hoping to go all day. Have a lean Ford Thunderbird up front.
One of the things we're going to watch for this afternoon, given the length of this race, are the cool suits. Several of the guys ran out of ice water last weekend at the World 600. That was a shorter race than this one. Several guys have bigger boxes to hold the ice water in their cars. Not all of them do. Some of these people may run out of cool suits before they run out of laps.
A shorter race in terms of time on the racetrack, not in terms of miles. That's why this one is so tough. And by the way, while we were talking to Joey, Jeff Bodine has returned from the bench and he's back in the lineup.
We might mention the cool suits are excellent when they work. You can get the temperature down and you can dial it as cold as 45 degrees. The guys who make that told me Richard Petty will use it at 45 degrees. That almost would freeze anybody else to death. But some guys use it around 50. I think Jeff Bodine uses it around 55 degrees. They're great when they work. When they don't work, or when you run out of ice water or ice, which usually takes about 3 to 3.5 hours, it's like being wrapped in a rubber blanket. You will absolutely perspire, and it is unbelievably difficult. So if the cool suit to stop working, they may have to take that thing off of some of these drivers and get it off of so they can at least perspire and get some cooling down during the late part of this race.
Is it physical conditioning or is it mental attitude? I don't think anybody really knows. It's a combination thereof of the two of them. But whatever it takes, the man who wins today's race, he will be marked as a very special survivor in a tough sport. We've had a lot of overheating problems in the Busch Grand National race yesterday. Incidentally, a race that was won, first time in his career winning a Busch Grand National race. All you people in the Midwest will be happy to hear this. Mark Martin. Mark Martin, that Ford Thunderbird, number 31, his car is red and white, just like Mark's car was in the old ASA days. But Mark has finally won on the Busch Grand National trail.
And here's Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont Airlines Underall Oldsmobile for his pit stop. Marty Reed is there.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, we may have another overheating problem soon because the front of Sterling Marlin's car, you can see smoke coming out of it. They're going to do a complete 4-tire change. He has taken on 3 cups of water so far. He is trying to suck on a washcloth that's in his mouth. It looks like it's soaked with water just to keep his lips and throat moist. He's back out on board.
We may find ourselves in a situation here where discretion is going to be the better part of valor. The man who wins this race may toe in his horns and cruise about 130 miles an hour between laps now and maybe 420.
Sterling Marlin's best career finish last year in the Power Tractor 400 at Daytona, driving for Hoss Ellington. He left that ride last year to run full-time for Billy Hagan and Wayne King in the Piedmont Underall's car. And, of course, they've had a pretty rough year. They finished 4th at Darlington, but have been trying to get their act together. He didn't run here last year. In fact, his last race here was an 83. He drove for Roger Hamby. He finished 10th 3 years ago.
Sterling Marlin, by the way, as we go back up front and watch Bobby Allison test Dale Earnhardt, on the last set of tires went 57 laps, at least for the right side set of tires. That's all he got out of it. That seems to be typical for most of the teams, although the cars running up front are going a little further. But on lap 278, they took the opportunity to change all 4 and taken a chance this time. But I think I report that not because he's a front runner, but because it is typical of what's happening today. So Bobby Allison is taking his time, or Dale Earnhardt is making it difficult, perhaps a little bit of both, in putting a lap on Dale Earnhardt, who is running in 4th position, as Bobby Allison there in the 22 Miller American Buick and Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler Chevy battle. Ken Schrader in the number 90 car has pitted. This is somewhat unexpected. He's going after right side rubber, but we're continuing to watch to see if Bobby Allison can finally get a lap up on Mr. Speed of 1987, Earnhardt.
Well, Earnhardt is not going to give him anything easy because he would like to stay on the lead lap. There's a lot of traffic up there. They run by one of the lap cars and move in. A caution flag earlier in the day helped Dale Earnhardt get that lap back, and he needs a yellow flag right now if he can try to get in and get some fresh tires and keep from cranking himself a lap down. Only 4 cars on the lead lap. Bobby Allison currently the leader. The 4th place car just in front of him there. That yellow and blue numeral, car number 3.
Jerry was talking earlier about the preferred temperatures of many of these drivers in regards to their cool suits. Jeff Bodine is a man who likes to run his very cool, but that's a critical factor. All the drivers need to feel comfortable in the cars.
How cool do you keep that cool suit? Well, the initial setting is 55 to 60 degrees fan. It fluctuates in between there. But as the race goes on, the ice melts in the cooling unit. The temperature rises a little bit, so it might end up between 65 and 70. And then maybe at the end, 75 to 80. But believe me, that still feels cool compared to what it is inside that car.
Well, again, the drivers may have one of the best seats in the entire house today, even for some of the fans, with this heat beating right down on us. Bobby Allison finally gets by Dale Earnhardt. He did this good old time. It took about 10 laps. Jerry, he got it done.
He did, and you didn't have to look at the racetrack. Just look down through the grandstands, and 55,000 people stood up and started cheering. A lot of them were Earnhardt fans, and a lot of them were Allison fans, but Bobby Allison has cranked Dale Earnhardt, the defending champion of the Winston Cup Tour, a lap down.
Like the Mason-Dixon line once did, as this race was once named after, all of the events of the past year have drawn very distinct lines between the fans of the Allisons, the Bodines, the Elliots, and the Earnhardts, at least in 1987, on the Winston Cup Trail. 287 laps complete. Bobby Allison in control, but the main ingredient here may be finishing. There are 600,000 people in Delaware. The 3 counties that we straddle right here have 100,000 people. The city of Dover has only 30,000 people, but the crowd estimates here exceed well that 30,000 people. We're also close to a major Air Force base here in Dover, Delaware. Today's Winston Cup race is being brought to you by Armor All. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. By the Robert Bosch Corporation, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug. And by John Deere and your local John Deere dealer. Well, we're also within a nucleus, or at the nucleus, of 33 million people, they tell me, Jerry, in terms of an hour-and-a-half ride from here. And this race has gone over very well. I think a lot of people were skeptical in the beginning as we go back into the pits and see the overheating problems of Jeff Bodine as to just how a stock car race would come off in not metropolitan New York, but we're deep in the heart of Yankee country, and it has done quite well, thank you.
Well, one of 3 tracks up north, of course, Pocono and Watkins Glen, the other 2, but one of the New York drivers, among New York native Jeff Bodine, again having trouble. Marty Reed is down there. Marty?
Well, guys, it's got this crew a little bit baffled. There's not much more they can do except keep putting water in there and blowing it through the radiator, and hopefully it'll keep the radiator cool enough to keep him out on course.
Ricky Rudd is in the pits with the hood up on the Motorcraft board. Ricky Rudd perhaps experiencing the same malady. We mentioned earlier that attrition is bound to rear its head, and it's really coming forth here as we approach lap 300.
Hood up on the car number 15 of Ricky Rudd, and they are again having troubles in that car. Of course, this is the car they won with here back in September of last year, the car they won with at Atlanta earlier in the year in the Motorcraft 500. Carol Stott and the crew now working there, Greg and Daryl Moore, and there's Ricky trying to get a cool drink and sitting patiently in the car, and while the crew of Bud Moore works to get it fixed. Bud Moore, who turned 62 years of age last Monday, certainly would like to have another win here at Dover, Delaware. He's been very successful here in the past, but having their trouble today. And there's Bobby Allison, Larry, making a move.
A move potentially on Terry Labonte, who is on the lead lap, is one of only 3 cars on that lap. Bobby, Davey Allison, and Terry Labonte, and Bobby Allison is moving to the inside of Terry Labonte, and if he gets past, only one family is represented on the lead lap, and Bobby Allison makes that one look easy. Now it's Bobby and Davey. They're alone.
You know, we spoke to Davey earlier in the week and talked to him about his goals in life, and we sort of chatting down in the garage area, and he said, you know, you've got to be just on the cloud now, dancing in the sky. You were the first rookie to sit on the front row at Daytona. You won a pole. Now you've won a race at Talladega. What would make the year complete? And Davey said, you know, if I could just race one time on that last lap of the checkered flag with Dad and beat him, I think I would be fulfilled. It may happen.
Maybe today. Some pleasing words from the hospital. Morgan Shepherd is being released. He's okay, and they're not finding any broken bones, Jerry. So good news for everybody who's a Morgan Shepherd supporter, being released from the hospital. Jeff Bodine is rolling back into the pits. He's still got the overheating problem, and Dick is following the situation in Ricky Rudd's pit.
Well, here's the problem with Ricky Rudd's car. The coil went bad, and no wonder. This thing is so hot that without the towel, I couldn't hold it. They did some unusual service on Rudd while he was in, too. He packed his chest with ice. He just poured a whole bunch of ice right down the front of his shirt. There's a guy without a cool suit, but he's going to be cool for a few laps, Larry.
Yeah, a few laps, but with the height of the sun where it is right now, that ice is likely to melt very quickly. Elliott is one driver without a cool suit. Bobby Allison, at his 39 plus, or however old he is without a cool suit, as was Harry Gant and Darrell Waltrip. These are the people without cool suits. Dick mentioned Ricky Rudd. Neil Bonnet didn't start this race with one, nor did Morgan Shepherd or Sterling Marlin. The other people who started in the top half of the field had them.
There's Bobby Allison making a move inside the car number 9 of Bill Elliott. So I'm sure, Bobby, you've seen Bill pass him enough this year. He said, turn him out in fair play. Here I come, and said, make room for the veterans.
Jerry, listen to this stat. Does Bobby Allison like Dover or do well at it? In 1971, he led 395 of 500 laps in one of the races. In 72, he led 252. In 78, one of the races, he led 267. In 82, 486 of the 500 laps. How can anybody in a Winston Cup race lead all but 14? And in 83, in the 2 races, he led 256 and 195. Bobby Allison responds to Dover. Rich Wilson smoking heavily in the pits. Bobby Allison smoking them all on the track.
Bobby Allison now makes his way inside and around the car number 9 of Bill Elliott. And he's got to be loving this. He's seen Elliott pass him the kind of year Elliott had in 85, where he passed everybody, and Allison won the event at Talladega, became the oldest Winston Cup driver ever to win a super speedway event last year at 48 years of age when he won the Winston 500. He would like to pick up his win, and he is currently 4th on the all-time win list with 82 victories. If he could win today, he would tie with Kelly Yarborough, who has 83. He would be tied for 3rd behind, of course, the King Richard Petty with 200, and David Pearson with 105 wins.
And in terms of career money winnings, Bobby has been very close to Richard Petty for quite some time. Bobby Allison is at $6,336,000, and Richard Petty is at $6,370,000. So there's about a $40,000 difference there in career money winnings. Richard number 2, Bobby number 3 in the all-time list, and the man who won so many races in the red and white car number 11, I guess it was green and white at one time, Darrell Waltrip is the all-time leading money winner.
Well, one car, Larry, that's really picked up the pace, although he's a lap down, is Bill Parsons in the car number 55, the Copenhagen Oldsmobile. Now, they came in and made a tire change, and apparently Andy Petrie, the new crew chief on the car, has really gotten the car dialed in for Bill. 29 years of age, from Denver, North Carolina. Bill Parsons currently being shown in 5th spot, but he is closing in on the car number 3 of Dale Earnhardt. And for a further report on the story, let's go to Marty Reed on pit road.
On down with team manager Tex Powell. Your man started 26. Right now he's running 5th. He was 2nd. Are you right where you want to be? You're still a lap down.
No, we'd like to be in the lead lap, and we got some strategy figured out that if it goes green the rest of the way, we're going to try to get back in the lead lap.
Can you afford to push it this soon? We still have 200 laps to go.
Right. I didn't hear all of what you said.
Can you afford to push it this soon with 200 laps to go?
Yeah, we're going to give it a try.
Okay, that's the word from Tex Powell. Keep an eye on number 55.
This is the car that he finished 4th in at Martinsville a few weeks ago. It's a short track car that they wrecked in the Winston Open in Charlotte. They rebuilt the car. His best ever career finish came in this machine, as I said, at Martinsville, Virginia. He had a shot at winning the race, came home in 4th. And Bill Parsons has really been coming on this year. I think he is going to be a tremendous effort before the year's out, Larry. I predict he's going to win one race, maybe more.
A couple of extraneous notes here we haven't had a chance to get up, but they're interesting. Bill Elliott, when he made his last pit stop, and we're going to follow Phil's progress, by the way, around the track, and maybe put a clock on it one time. Went 89 laps did Bill Elliott between his last 2 pit stops. Maybe that's a gauge as to what the maximum length is for anybody to go on one load of fuel. Most of the teams, listen to this, established a dubious mark of 8 counter. 8 pit stops, that's between 7 and 9. In the first half of the race, now we're putting the clock, as we mentioned, on Bill Parsons. Remember that somewhere in the 35-second range, a little longer than that. A good lap here at Dover. And one other comment, Larry Pollard, who had dropped out of the race earlier in the day, is back in. Well, Bill Parsons getting around quite well. I did not expect him to be that quick at this stage of the race.
Well, that translates to 134.8 miles per hour, and after 300 laps, that is extremely quick. And we were correct in saying that he may be one of the fastest, if not the fastest car on the racetrack. Of course, Bobby Allison is the leader. He and Davey are in a lap to themselves. There are 3 cars, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, a lap down, of which Bill Parsons is the 5th place car. So let's see if we can get a time on Bobby Allison as he comes by. We said that a little over 26 seconds for Phil Parsons, 134.8, almost 135 miles an hour. A good run so far for Phil Parsons. Here's the leader out of turn 4. We'll try to get a lap time on 49-year-old Bobby Allison as he is going into turn 1. The clocks are on. He runs the car down on the bottom of the racetrack. We would expect him to run somewhere in the 26-second category. That would be awfully quick indeed. Of course, he has not come in for fresh rubber. His tires have got to be getting pretty thin out there, and he has had the car dialed in pretty well all afternoon.
Bobby Allison crosses the start-finish line underneath Harold Kinder. He goes at 26.5. 26.5, an average speed of 135.849 miles per hour. And Bobby Allison and Bill Parsons are keeping pace with each other. Bill's never going to catch up that way, Jerry.
Well, it's awfully close, 26.7, 26.5, and here's Bobby Allison making an entry on the pit road. He said he had not been in for quite a while. Now he makes an exchange. They will come in and change tires. Bobby Allison is going to make a pit stop. Marty Reed is there.
All right, we've got the clock running. This is under the green, so this one's got to be fast. The guys are going to really earn their money on this one. They look like the rubber on the left side, smoke coming from underneath the car. They changed the rubber on the right side. 2 cans of gas are in. He's away in 14 seconds.
That is a quick pit stop. Pat Broyles and Jimmy Finney. Pat Broyles, Bobby's son-in-law, married his daughter Bonnie, And Jimmy Finnick and the rest of the Miller crew did an excellent job of getting. I tell you, when your driver runs up front and leads, it pumps everybody in the team up.
Yeah, even in a hot day like this, how can those guys exert so much energy after 3 hours out on the hot pavement? By the way, Bobby went 89 laps, the same as Bill Elliott. Now, by going 89 laps, that means that he might well have to come in again at about lap 405, 410. It'll be very close. He's going to have to stop one more time, but it looks like he will be able to do it. Dick Bergman is down with Rick Wilson, who's had a real handful all day.
Well, Rick Wilson, you've been our photographer all day, but you have had a wild day. What finally put you out?
Well, the motor finally went, I believe. What had happened, when Morgan spun, our car got into him, and it knocked the front end of the sheet metal loose, and some of it went out of the car and knocked the floorboard up. So that was the main deal, but what happened, I couldn't run at half throttle. So that might have hurt the motor. So, you know, the motor was starving for fuel, and we just wanted to finish the race. We wanted to stay out there today and finish the race. But Kodak Film Moseville run super good before we got in that crash. And we'll be back.
That thing looks so torn up. How in heaven's name did you drive it at all?
Well, it was pretty tough. We just wanted to finish today. I had my hands full, more so worried about staying out of everybody's way, but we just wanted to finish the race, and it won't be today.
How hot is it inside?
Pretty darn hot. You know, cool suits are doing their job today. I just hope everybody's working.
That's Rick Wilson. He's a tough kid.
Rick Wilson, who qualified so well, he damaged the car severely in the Charlotte-Winston Open a couple of races ago. But they have been coming on strong this year, and his qualifying run today was really one of the high water marks of this team for 1987. But the Allisons, Bobby and Davey, continue to dominate. The Rebel flag flying proudly in Yankee Land here in Dover, Delaware, where Bobby Allison and Davey Allison are the first two leaders in this race. One thing certainly that you need to have in great working order on any racetrack, particularly a mile, is brakes. Dick Bergman reports.
Drivers adjust the amount of brake pressure at the front versus the rear to help them get in the corners better. They turn a knob inside the car, which in turn adjusts the amount of pressure that the brake pedal can apply to either the front or the rear calipers. If the car is pushing or understeering going in, the driver will simply dial more brake to the back end of the car, and that'll help him enter the turn much faster.
Thank you, Dick. Well, now, one single car in this race is 1 lap down. We have 5 cars on the lead lap. Everybody else is at least 2 laps down. Dale Earnhardt, one of the cars on the lead lap, has come into the pit area here on lap 324.
Well, Earnhardt is in the pits right now, taking right side tires in a big drink of water as well. He is also going to take on left side tires, possibly. They're looking them over, apparently not right side tires only, and Earnhardt goes back on the speed.
This long green flag, we've been green since lap 167, about 160 laps, has really scrambled everybody's strategy. It's difficult to assess, at least at this juncture, where everybody stands, includes of being in synchrony with the leaders, who has to come in one more time. Our best guess is that Bobby and Davey Allison can each go the distance of this race on one more stop.
I think it may be close for Bobby. I think he may have to stop around 4:10 or so, and it'd be close. He'd have to go 90 laps, and he's not gone 90 laps today. But definitely Davey can make it on one more stop. A car that may have stretched it a little bit too far is this one. Car number 1, that is Brett Bodine, currently showing an 11th spot. Bodine just came down pit road while we were watching the Earnhardt pit stop, and he had gone 99 laps on the fuel. The car slowed in turn 2, rolled down through turn 3. He lost a lot of time on the racetrack. The car was apparently running out of fuel. They came in and fueled the car, changed tires, and now the Bullseye Barbecue car is back on the speedway. But a costly, lengthy time under fuel, 99 laps, and costly time.
Many Winston Cup races have only 3 or 4 pit stops, but this is like an Indianapolis car race where most of the leaders have made arena football, one of the new sports coming to ESPN. June 20th, Denver versus Chicago. You've seen soccer played indoors. Of course, most hockey is played indoors. And now arena football. Not 11-man teams. They're down to about 8. But a lot of people think this will be one of the sports of the 90s. And you can tune in and check out for yourself live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, 333 laps this time around for the leader. It's an Allison, not that Allison. It's Bobby Allison, but his father is the leader of this race. Davey having another strong race on a super speedway. He has been one of the major, if not the major surprise of 1987 in Winston Cup racing. Bobby Hillin Jr., a man who has won himself as a young racer, a 22-year-old, a race on a super speedway race in Talladega last year, has not been the same factor in 1987 that he was in 1986. Bobby has just barely showed, as a matter of fact, in the top 15 here today, but he has gone without incident. You see no creases on any of the fenders. He's had a clean racing day, and he's out there like so many of the other competitors, just trying to survive this terrible, terrible day in terms of the atmospheric conditions here in Dover, Delaware.
Larry, let's we might tell the fans that even though there are only a number of cars on the lead lap, there are 5 cars currently on the lead lap as a result of Bobby Allison's pit stop. Of course, Davey Allison is the leader. Bobby running second. Terry Labonte is in third spot. In fourth, we're showing the Phil Parsons car. He has since made another stop while we were in commercial. He came back in for right side tires. So Phil Parsons, having now gone a lap down, and the car number 3 of Dale Earnhardt certainly showing on the lead lap. And there's a car that had his trouble all afternoon. Problems continue to plague the Levi Garrett effort for Jeff Bodine. An overheating problem. The defending champion of this Budweiser 500. And Jeff Bodine again brings the car down pit road.
A big part of the story in Winston Cup stock car racing in 1987 has been, as you know, all the crashes, the accusations, and the crashing. And we want to bring you an update on what's going on with that situation. To those of us intimately involved in the sport, touting the titillation of crashes and controversy is sacrilegious, but journalistically, it's a story that continues, and here is both a recap and an update. The roots of everyone's displeasure date back more than a year ago, and at Bristol 2 months ago, the latest round of major blows began. Dale Earnhardt tagged then-leader Sterling Marlin. Jeff Bodine and Ken Schrader are swept up. Now, many have cited Earnhardt as the eye of this storm. Certainly he has been involved often, but not every single time. Later in the same event, these high banks continue to claim victims. Jeff walked along for 10 minutes after this crash before he stopped, paused, and poured out his emotions.
I guess the tactics now are if you can't pass, you just knock the guy out. I don't know who it was that hit me, but I'm sure he should know better than do that. That's an Earnhardt move, and there's only one Earnhardt out here. We don't need any more, but I'll tell you, I've been a nice guy for a long while, and I love this sport. I love our sponsors, Levi Garrett, Exxon, and AC Spark Plug, but I guess Jeff Bodine's going to have to get tough, start knocking some guys around if that's how they want to play.
2 weeks ago, Charlotte, temper sore to a full boil. The Winston. Neil Bonnet said it was time to take the gloves off, and Dale and Jeff are first, again and again, taking out others. Later that afternoon, Jeff is again the victim, and this incident draws in normally racing aggressive, aloof Bill Elliott. The seeds of still another incident are sown. After the race, Dale Earnhardt states his case.
Elliott turned me sideways off for 2 over there, and I got straightened out from that, and then he turned me through the trial sideways. So I got sort of ill about it, but, you know, I still raced him, and I carried him up high down there and let him know if I tried to run him in the wall and knock him or nothing. I just carried him a little high. He got a little ill about it, tried to wreck me, or waited on me after the call shot for checkered flag.
A usually placid Elliott demonstrates his feelings of oneness with the Childress crew as he returns after losing the Winston. Back in the pits, more emotion.
Come on, hands up. You made us after the guy. Get out of here. You too. Get out of here. Come on now.
And the rebuttal of very specific Bill Elliott.
The thing of it is, I mean, here we are playing bumper cars 170 miles an hour, and I've probably been the least aggressive guy in here as far as what I know my race car will do. You know, and I knew I was there, and he knew I was there, and he just flat cut me out, and then he nearly put me in the wall down there. I didn't have to run over him to outrun him. You know, he was just cutting me out. It's time this stuff stops. I mean, we've got $75,000 in race cars, plus our lives involved too, plus everybody else is out there trying to race for a living, you know, and it's crazy.
NASCAR issues fines and a warning to all involved. Dale Earnhardt has a politician's response, but at the same time acknowledges NASCAR's feelings.
NASCAR is going to handle it the best they can and do the best for the sport.
Then finally, in a sportsman race at Charlotte, an incident that most of his fellow competitors don't say is blatant. Jeff tapped the rear of another.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and anyone that has really reviewed the tapes of that incident, so-called incident, that wasn't even an incident. We call it a non-incident. There's a little tap from behind. Car got a little sideways. They both straightened out and continued. Nothing was deliberate. Nothing was done intentionally. It was just a racing accident. Everyone in auto racing, unless they're a Dale Earnhardt fan, it's unjust. The penalty was just unjust, uncalled for. There wasn't really an accident. The sad part about this is I've almost become a hero because I ran into Dale Earnhardt. I don't want to become a hero because I ran into Dale Earnhardt. I didn't run into him on purpose. I want people out there to believe me. So I'm really no hero to him. There's a lot of people out there that don't like Dale, a lot of people that don't like other drivers. It seems like they've all joined on my side because I ran into Dale Earnhardt. But believe me, I'm not a hero, and I don't want to be a hero just because I run into somebody accidentally. I want to be a hero because I win races and put a good show on for everybody.
Well, Jerry, not only was there the $15,000 fine, that incident taking place in a sportsman race at Charlotte when he hit Dale dead center in the back. He was not along either the right side or the left side, but he has been placed, Jeff has, on probation until December 31st. And down the line, if that is not lessened or rescinded, that could be as detrimental to the plans of Jeff Bodine as a $15,000 fine.
Larry, while we were away, the leader there, Davey Allison, came down pit road for a pit stop, and here comes the Havoline Ford to a halt. He will come in, and they have gone 95 laps with a tank of fuel. They will go to the right side. Joey Knuckles and the crew will change right side tires, add the fuel to the car, and by virtue of this pit stop, he should make it all the way on one more fuel stop. A little over 150 laps to go, 153 laps to be exact from the completion of the Budweiser 500. And now his dad, Bobby, makes his way down pit road. Bobby Allison slowly brings the Miller Buick to a stop on pit road, and our pit reporters are there.
Well, Bobby Allison is in the pit area. He looks calm, collected. Oh, here's trouble. They're putting water into the radiator, and it's always a sign of an overheating engine. But, oh, they're tearing the grill out. Allison with an overheating problem, and that is why he's in. Bobby Allison definitely in trouble here on pit road. Now, there are some other stories that are going on pit road, too. One of them is Kyle Petty just entered the speedway. They have worked on it so hard for over 100 laps, but he's back on the racetrack. And the final story I'm going to give you, wait till you hear this one, D.K. Ulrich had hit the wall so hard early in the race, just walked by me with his helmet in his hand. He's got his fire seat back on. He's looking for somebody to relieve at the other end of the pit.
Funky D.K. Ulrich, the man who's provided cars for so many people. By the way, Allison came in after only 33 green flag laps, so that was definitely on schedule. Davey is the leader. By the way, back to the Earnhardt, Bodine, Elliott situation. Today, there has been nothing, in case you joined us late. The race has been very clean. There have been some incidents, but nothing that would evoke any type of controversy. Something that I mentioned earlier, if you look at the leader, Davey Allison, when Dale was involved in a crash on ESPN at Bristol, what has drawn back, what has actually hampered the situation with Dale is that his history does kind of precede him. He has been involved, one of the people involved in many of the incidents. But if Dale is in error, and I'll say this again because, again, it's journalistically appropriate to talk about this, Jerry, I've always felt that if Dale is in any error, it's like he expects no more than what he himself is prepared to give, and maybe that is more than what the other drivers are prepared for.
I think Dale summed it up when he said, you know, I'm a racer. My dad, Ralph, taught me to be a race car driver. He is aggressive, and that's why he's been so successful with the winning the Rookie of the Year in one year and the championship the following year. And he attacks the racetrack, and I think he doesn't mean to intentionally wreck or hurt anybody. And I think he feels like NASCAR has satisfied a lot of people by putting the fines and probation where they belong. And he says, I'm just out here to win races. I'm going to put all that behind me and go ahead and try to race on Sunday.
And to summarize the situation for Jeff Bodine, there is a consensus among the crews that the current fine of $15,000 might be too excessive. Now, Jeff hopes to find some opportunity to appeal that, but we'll follow the story for you either on Speed World or Speed Week. The only driver to ever repeat as winner of the Budweiser 500, Bobby Allison in 71-72, and again in 82-83 is in the pit area. He led many of the previous green flag laps of this race, the recently previous, but his chances for victory seem to be, well, the right word is not evaporating, but the water is very hot, isn't it, Dick?
Yeah, it sure is, Larry. They've got big problems here. They've sprayed water on the oil cooler. They've tried to spray it on the radiator. None of these things are a permanent fix. They're only going to get him for a few more laps. Frankly, once an engine starts to heat up, it will not settle itself down. Davey Allison with a very serious problem here. He has lost his chance to win this afternoon.
Bobby has led 148 of the 358 laps, or more than a third of his laps. We've got a heavy-duty smoker in turn number 3. It's Bobby Hillen Jr. Bobby Hillen Jr. brings out the yellow flag as he deposits the drink, and he goes into a skid as oil apparently getting on the rear tires as Bobby tries to hunker down the machine and bring her into the pits at a reasonable speed. Bobby Hillen Jr. in repose the inside of turn number 4. It is a long, long day, as we told you at the top of this show.
Well, suddenly everything looks black for the Miller team. I tell you, the Stavola brothers team, Mickey and Billy Stavola, who own the team cars of Bobby Hillen and Bobby Allison, and one was leading and one was running awfully well, and now one is overheated and one is blown. So this will put Terry Labonte on the lead lap. He was within about 10 car lengths of being lapped by the leader, Davey Allison, and now that will give Labonte a chance to come around and get some fresh tires and come down pit road. As are all the cars, the leaders are making their way to the pit.
Well, here's the rundown. There were only 2 cars on the lead lap, Davey Allison and the number 11 car of Terry Labonte. Earnhardt was a lap down, as was Kenny Schrader. Marty?
Well, welcome back to feeding time at the Piranha Tank, guys. Everybody's in. Davey Allison taking a cool, fresh drink of water. It's going to be a 4-tire change. This is exactly what this team wanted. They have been having everything go their way the last 160 laps or so. They were looking to come in about 5 more laps, but then the yellow comes out because of the accident, and Davey Allison goes right back out.
2 laps down to that young man. Bill Elliott, 3 laps down. Phil Parsons and Sterling Marlin. The G is silent, or so says Sterling, as he go back to checking the progress of Bobby Hillen, who's riding this one out in his Buick. He's waiting for a shove back. And 4 laps down, Rusty Wallace, Darrell Waltrip, as we go back once again and look at the tail end of the incident. Dave Marcus and Neil Bonnet. There's Bobby Hillen touching nobody or nothing else, just blowed up, as Bobby Allison is wanting to say.
And they're waiting for Terry Labonte to come down pit road. Now Terry Labonte, having led the first lap of the afternoon for that Budweiser team, makes his way to pit road, and Marty is there.
Well, it's very convenient for us, guys. I got to tell you, they're pitting right next to Davey Allison. If it stays this way, we won't have to run up and down pit lane too much, and we won't get as tired. Maybe neither will the crews. I don't know, but things seem to be fast and furious here in Terry Labonte's pit. He keeps the revs up. They look like they will go, yes, for a 4-tire change all the way around. They'll put 2 cans of gas in. Terry takes a cool drink from inside the cockpit. This appears to be a little bit slower than Davey Allison's, although I can't give you an official time. He's back out.
Marty, I'm curious. We've talked about the heat, but we really haven't asked either you or Dick directly. How hot is it down there? Are people wilting? Is it very difficult to work?
Well, guys, I got to tell you, the asphalt is burning right up through our shoes. Now, that's got to be about 100 to 105 degrees on the asphalt. I cannot imagine what it's like in the cockpit, where it's about 130 down by the foot pedals inside that car. And there's the other crew members here. Take a look here. Get a shot of this crew member right here, just bending over, just trying to catch his breath, adjust his knee pads. I mean, these guys, they will definitely earn their money today. Everybody is hot.
Marty, I got to believe that most of those people are dragging. We've had a race here where it's not been 4 or 5 pit stops. There have been 10 or 11. The work has been extra special hard under the worst possible conditions.
Absolutely. You know, the worst part about it is it doesn't seem like anybody except maybe Davey Allison's crew in the last about 150 laps have had an easy time of it. Everybody seems to be getting back right into it. Let's go to the...
Okay, Marty. Well, thank you. We've completed 364 laps, Marty. We'll try and keep you and Dick apprised as this race finally gets down to the final stages. Remember, we will go 500 miles, 500 laps at Dover. For yellow, by the way, Kyle Petty has returned to the race. Davey Allison is now out in front alone. He was almost a lap ahead of Terry Labonte, but the yellow moves Terry back to his rear bumper. Kenny Schrader, a couple laps down, is in 3rd position. Dale Earnhardt is in 4th, and Bill Elliott and Earnhardt have moved back to 1 lap down. And Bill Elliott is 2 laps down.
You know, we got to remember that when Jody Ridley won here back in 1981, with 100 laps to go, he was still 5 laps down. So the crowd having a good time here. Some 55 to 60,000 people have jammed their way in here to Dover Downs for an exciting Budweiser 500. But Dick Berger now standing by on pit road with a guy who had an interesting ride in a rough afternoon, D.K. Ulrich. Dick?
Well, DK, you had a tough start to this afternoon. You're down here looking for a ride.
Well, yeah, we had a tire blister on our Kroger Sandoz Chevrolet. Now standing down here in relief for number 80.
How are you? You've got a big red mark on the side of your face. Any other problems?
I got a couple of racing stripes on me a little bit, but I'm fine.
You're looking for another car to get into?
Yeah, sure enough.
DK Ulrich, he's okay. Just looking for more racing to do this afternoon.
The 80 car is that of Gary Fiedel. Gary has a brother, Butch, whom I have seen run many times, Butch and Gary, in a super modified at places like the Winchester Speedway in Indiana. Gary has also run some sprint cars, some supers. He's had some experience, obviously, in late models, and Gary hopes to perhaps be able to make that gigantic step toward Winston Cup stock car racing before his career is over. The number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt, the number 90 car of Kenny Schrader, they are at the tail end of the lead lap. So keep that in mind as we go back to green. They like to stay there so that if a yellow comes out, they can get back behind the leader, Davey Allison, and maybe go to Dyson for the win. A little bit of explanation as to how something like this occurs. They pitted after the pace car was back out onto the racetrack. So the reason why they couldn't go all the way around and catch up on the tail end of the field is that when they came out of the pit, they had to fall in line behind the pace car, and being 1 lap down, they were able to move up on the inside of the track, lined up basically on the front row, but still the distance of the track behind the leader, Davey Allison. And I'll tell you what, the young man from Hueytown is not going to make it easy for these guys to stay on the lead lap, is he, Jerry?
And Davey Allison certainly, a little bit of bump with Kenny Schrader, and those cars getting out of shape, and Schrader rubbed the wall trying to hang on. The car wobbling back and forth. He can't quite hang on. Here is Buddy Baker going beneath him, Sterling Marling up high, and Schrader dances the car to a halt and in turn 1 on the apron.
Kenny Schrader, I think, touching fenders with Davey Allison. We couldn't tell exactly who it was from the camera angle that we had, but we're quite certain it was Davey. Now racing back to the yellow. Back to the yellow. Earnhardt is trying to stay on the lead lap. Davey Allison is pressuring. They race back. And Dale Earnhardt has returned back to the lead lap. He'll go back to the tail of the field as Davey Allison is the leader. But Earnhardt makes up his lap once again.
Boy, can you believe how quickly things can change here at Dover, Delaware. Let's take a look at the yellow flag waving now in Harold Kinder's hand. Here they come. You see Schrader's car bobbing back and forth. The tail wagging the dog, so to speak, as Terry Labonte goes by, and Schrader's trying to hang on. The car gets worse and worse. Underneath him is Bill Elliott, who slides by. There is Sterling Marlowe. Watch Buddy Baker go downstairs on pit road, and Schrader will spin the car and keep it down on the apron of the track, away from the rest of the traffic on the speedway, and it will come to a halt.
Well, Kenny almost saved it about 3 times. Now, a lot of people are taking this opportunity to pit. Again, we missed the very start of it, but my guess is that he touched fenders with Davey Allison because he and Davey were going at it. Davey is trying to put a lap on Kenny, and Kenny was trying to hold Davey back.
Well, it looks like Terry Labonte is going to do another 4-tire change, so obviously he didn't like the setup he had. They had just changed it, so they're going to change the entire setup. Let's go down to Dick Berger while this goes on.
Boy, there's some action up here, I'll guarantee you. The right front of Schrader's car is bent. Crew chief Bob Johnson is beating on it with a sledgehammer. They got one man watching the field to be sure that they don't stay too long. Labonte is out. Schrader remains in. They got the right side tires changed. Schrader goes out. He is still on the lead lap, and I'm going to tell you what, guys, that is the best piece of driving I have seen in 1987. Schrader all the way down the straightaway almost held onto that car.
He really did, Dick. He was significantly out of shape. He was scraping right along the wall. It looked like that he was definitely doomsday material the first time he touched the outer fence, but he stayed with it and stayed out of everybody's way, and no one else was involved in the incident. Terry Labonte is the 3rd car on the lead lap. Davey Allison leads this race, and look who's right on his back bumper, Dale Earnhardt. But Earnhardt has not even come close so far today showing the ability to stay up with Davey, and things apparently have not changed. Bill Elliott, laps down, 2 laps down. Davey is between Davey and Dale Earnhardt. Terry Labonte, the third car in the lead lap, is back in the field. No, correct that. He is not back in the field. He's 2 cars down.
And we'll see if those fresh tires on Terry Labonte's car will give him a shot to get up there and run with Earnhardt and possibly even run Davey Allison down. There's the car number 9 of Bill Elliott. He's being shown 1 lap down in 4th place as Davey Allison moves down. There's Earnhardt moving around on the outside of Benny Parsons. Just behind Earnhardt, the car number 11 coming into your picture is the 3rd place car. Earnhardt, then Terry Labonte, battling for 2nd and 3rd, going around the lap car of Benny Parsons.
Dale Earnhardt, the points leader with 1,658 points. Bill Elliott is 2nd in the point standing. Neil Bonnet is 3rd, and Terry Labonte has quietly crept up from 4th position in the point standing. Does Junior Johnson know how to accumulate points or not? He is, without question, the single most acknowledged master in collecting points for the Winston Cup champion.
Well, between Terry Labonte and Junior Johnson, they've won 7 Winston Cup titles in the last 11 years. Of course, Junior has gotten 6 of those, 3 with Kelly Yarborough and 3 with Darrell Waltrip. And then, of course, Terry got 1 driving for the Billy Hagan Wayne King team back in '84. So a successful combination. They have not found their way to victory lane this year, but they have been awfully close, finishing 2nd at Talladega and 2nd again in the Winston. They have gotten closer and closer. Many people felt it might be their day here at Dover, and it's not over yet.
As a TV show of about 15 years ago used to say, right here is where the action is. Let me report for you that Davey Allison is streaking away. He is the Bob Hayes who is broken from the pack, caught the pass, and he's running for a touchdown. My question is, Jerry, is Davey using the best judgment? He might well be, he might not be, in terms of how hot, how difficult it is out there today. Should he go at maximum speed? Or is that car so strong, hey, he's out there for a Sunday drive, and even at 8/10, I'm this much faster than everybody else.
Well, I'm sure he's probably not wanting to use the car up, but he must feel awfully comfortable to be running where he is in the bottom group. There's Kenny Schrader, car number 90. Schrader, who got that bumping incident just a few laps ago with Davey Allison, spun the car, came down for a tire change, and they may have a little sheet metal damage on the right side. Dick Berger can follow up on that. Dick?
Well, Jerry, it's a little bit more than sheet metal damage. He just radioed his car owner, Junie Dunleavy, and he said, hey, guys, it don't run quite as well as it used to. Apparently, the front end is somewhat knocked out on the car. But don't give up on these guys, because Junie Dunleavy won here 1 other time. It's the only time he's ever won a Winston Cup race. And at one point in that victory, they were down 6 laps. Don't give up on Schrader yet.
And that team, Jerry, is very popular here in North Texas.
They are popular everywhere. When they won a race here in '81, I was here in the pits working that event, and I remember when it came down pit road, they got a standing ovation. All the teams stood on the pit wall and waved and applauded for Junie Dunleavy and Jody Ridley. And when they won the qualifier early in the year, the battle between Elliott and Schrader, when Schrader went to victory lane at Daytona in the qualifying race, it was a tremendously popular victory there in the garage area.
Kenny Schrader, whose win in that qualifying race does not equate to an official Winston Cup race, is yet to win an official race. Many people thought that this might be a good opportunity for him because Dunleavy has done well here, and he had that very special starting position. Remember that Kenny Schrader started 3rd, where more winners at Dover Downs have come from than any other slot in the starting grid.
There you allude to the fact that Davey Allison may have turned the wick up a little bit on the Havoline Ford. Indeed, he has. Here we are showing almost 120 laps to go, and we just clocked him at 25.92 seconds. That is better than about 30 cars in the field qualified, and we are almost 400 laps into the race, and that is 138.8 miles per hour, and that is blistering here at Dover.
My instinct on a day like this, with what we have seen, is that is not wise.
I'll have to agree with you, but I don't think Davey would run the car as quickly as he is if the car didn't feel comfortable. Look at him. He's on the bottom of the racetrack, just a half a groove from that white line in the corners. The car must be handling flawlessly. Joey Knuckles and the crew, they must really have. Robert Yates has put a bulldozer beneath the hood of that car. It is so strong here at Dover, and all he does is just push the button and he rockets out of the corner.
And, Jerry, I will say one thing. Joey has really impressed me this year. I say that sincerely. Joey seems to have the handle on Davey and vice versa. They communicate well. And it strikes me that Joey is the kind of individual, based on what I've experienced myself so far this year, that he would radio to Davey and say, are you sure this is the right pace? And go discuss it and make certain that it is. But I don't know. It's been a tough day.
It has been a tough day. You know, Joey Knuckles was laboring for a long time under the shadows of Waddell Wilson, who's now moved on to the Hendrick stable with Darrell Waltrip, but now you get to see what talent is available underneath here. I think another guy we might see more of is Andy Sheepsy, the young crew chief who just took over and is running the operation for Phil Parsons. You see how well Parsons has run the past few races.
Sterling Marlin and Buddy Baker. Marlin, of course, in the Piedmont Underall Old number 44, and Buddy Baker in the Crystal Old. Sterling is in 12th, and Buddy is out of the top 15. He has had an uneventful day, but it's unfortunately been uneventful at both ends of the spectrum. No incident, the speed, that is to say, based on what Buddy Baker can show on the super speedway. Back up front, Davey Allison continues to orbit around the mile at Dover, Delaware, and Davey Allison has more than 100 laps to go yet to win this event. As we come back live to you, we've had a crash in turn number 3. Rusty Wallace on the initial call being involved, as well as Phil Parsons. Phil Parsons, who ran well up into the top 5 for much of the day. He was being showed on the tote board. And before this incident occurred, here comes the other combatant involved, Rusty Wallace. Yep, it was certainly Rusty Wallace and Phil Parsons.
Check the front end damage on the Kodiak Pontiac of Rusty Wallace. The crew coming sort of slowly over the wall. They must realize there must be pretty significant damage there. The front shoved in somewhat as Phil Parsons' car rolls off these self-cleaning banks here at Dover, 24 degrees. You can't stay on them very long unless you're going at speed, so his car rolls off the racetrack as the field slows under caution once again.
The Monster Mile devours yet 2 other competitors, and one, Phil Parsons, was apparently headed for at least a top 10, maybe a top 5 finish. He had lost 2 laps to the leader, Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt. Terry Labonte, remember, he is running in 3rd. Elliott, by the way, as Davey Allison ducks into the pits, lap 393. Wow. Now that surprises me. That's too early. He can't go the distance, I wouldn't expect. Well, maybe Marty can tell us in some more detail.
Well, Davey Allison almost ran over a couple of his pit crew members. He's taken on as much fluid as he can. They're also topping off the tanks, and they are going to make a 4-tire change all the way around. And you are right, the guys, that they cannot go the distance on this change. So there will definitely be at least one more stop. But on the good side for Davey Allison, his last 3 or 4 pit stops have all been under the yellow.
Well, and guess what, everybody? We now have 4 cars on the lead lap. The 4th car is a single digit. The car is red in color with white trim. Number 9. We've got Davey Allison on the radio. We're going to try this opportunity to see if we can raise him, Jerry.
Davey Allison, this is Jerry Punch at ESPN. Do you read us?
Yeah, Jerry, go ahead.
Really seem to be having them covered out there. Any concerns about going the rest of the way on fuel?
Well, we can't run it for about 86 laps, I think, so we'll probably have to stop one more time.
You were running awfully quick that last segment. Do you think you may be using the car up a little bit, or did the car feel very comfortable to you?
Yeah, the car felt really comfortable. We're just out here just riding along, taking it easy, trying not to abuse it and save it for the end.
Bill Elliott got around you when the caution came out, so he's back on the lead lap. Are you concerned about that?
Well, anytime Earnhardt or Labonte, either one are in the lead lap with you, you got to be concerned about it.
Davey, best of luck to you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Davey Allison already has broken the bubble. He has that first win in his career as we watch Bill Elliott re-emerging from pit row. Remember that Bill Elliott has moved himself back onto the lead lap. 4 cars now. At one point, we were down to just 2 cars in the lead lap, and now we've got 4. Under yellow for an incident involving Rusty Wallace and Phil Parsons. Here's the end of it.
Here we are in turn 3. Of course, Parsons, the black and white numeral car number 55, the Copenhagen car. Rusty just goes beneath him and gets by. Phil's car heavily damaged, coming by on the hook. And there's Rusty Wallace's car still getting significant repairs on pit road, and Dick Berggren is there.
Well, they may be able to get Rusty Wallace back on the racetrack again, but boy, I'll tell you what, if they do, this thing is probably not going to handle particularly well. The nose of it is well bashed in. Both the right front and left front corners are pushed in. They've cut the fenders off it. They're going to try to line this car back up a little bit. And right now they're adjusting the front end with a sledgehammer, and that's never a good sign for sure. Rusty Wallace having his problems here on pit road.
3 hours and 37 minutes into the next marathon at Dover. We are finally getting down to the final stages. Lap 400. The youngest Allison, who started this race, is the race's leader with 396 down. Terry Labonte, which is the youngest and the oldest and the only Labonte, which started this race. Remember, he has a brother who competes. Dale Earnhardt is third. Bill Elliott is fourth. And Ken Schrader is in fifth. Well, this is a very unique facility. It surrounds another racetrack, and frankly, I'm surprised there aren't more like this that have popped up around the country. The southern-based stock cars venture north only occasionally, but when they do, this venue in Delaware is quite appropriate. Not appearing exactly like a car racetrack outside, but once inside, there's no question the fastest one-mile oval in America. Encircling one of the fastest 5.8 for trotters and pacers. Yes, this was the original intent, but a local contractor and former racer involved volunteered to help financially if they built a super speedway. Horse people, of course, accustomed to climate control as these 5,000 seats are, but in the early 70s, the track discovered stock car fans prefer open air, and they sat instead in the backstretch bleachers. So now the car finish line is moved there, and those seats are permanent. Dover's horse states are in the winter, not summer, for 80 days. And from inside the main grandstand, spectators have a panorama of the equestrian paddock. 600 horses are stabled in this modern facility in racing season, plus still around some informality of older stables, punctuated by quiet pieces of the past. And that paddock is in stark contrast to the paddock of the 80s and the motorized Thunder series of NASCAR that have more than just a little bit of fringe on the top. Jerry, it's a very nice facility. They've laid some new pavement down this year. A lot of the crews were surprised, happily surprised when they came back. By the way, the name of that contractor, Melvin Joseph from Georgetown, Delaware. He said, yeah, I'll pitch in and help out here, but you got to build me a super speedway, and raised a lot of eyebrows back in 1968, but I guess he had the right idea.
And it was Mel Joseph that came up with a special paving combination that's called a rubberized slag that they used here. It's an excellent paving job. In fact, it was just used at Charlotte Motor Speedway last year to repave that facility.
And other than on the front stretch, originally the back stretch, the Horse Tracks grandstand is on their car race backstretch. Boilerplate wall all the way around, except cement right underneath Harold where he drops the green on. Davey Allison, Neil Bonnet pokes his nose down low. Neil Bonnet wants to be racing. Oh, 3 people going to number 1, but Bonnet and Marcus mind their P's and Q's. Lap 400 goes by the boards, 100 to go.
Well, it's a whole new ball game, Larry. 4 cars on the lead lap. Davey Allison is there. Terry Labonte is there. The 2 cars you just see to the right of your screen is Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt. Those 2 cars, 3rd and 4th.
The jumble of colors, the confusion of a restart, the organized confusion. Somebody way up out of the field coming out of
Schrader. In turn 4, Schrader's car dancing up very, very high. This car gets out of shape. Well, Bill Elliott's back on the lead lap, but they got to be happy in the Elliott pit. Dick Berggren is standing by with his brother Dan.
Well, I'm sure they're happy that he's running so well, but I'm wondering how he's feeling. Dan, your brother is the only guy in the lead lap without a cool suit. How is he telling you he feels?
He feels hot. We've just been keeping dumping ice and water on him every time he comes in, but as long as he stays up, he's high, we're happy.
Can you guys make it all the way without another stop? Or you need another pit stop?
No, we'll need another pit stop. I don't know of anybody that can go the rest of the way.
How about the crew? How are you guys holding up?
Long day, but let's go.
Dan Elliott, they got to make at least one more pit stop, he says.
You know, Dan is the middle of the brothers. Bill's the youngest one. He's 31. Dan's 36, and Ernie's 39. People think Bill is the older brother, or oldest of the 3, but he is actually the youngest. Their dad, George, is 63 years of age, and now Elliott making a move. Underneath the car number 11 of Labonte, Elliott on the move. He will take second spot.
Dale Earnhardt, through his savvy and moxie, has been able to remain on the lead lap today. Boy, they're having the kind of year that every competitor in Major League Racing dreams about. And by the way, speaking of the other Major Leagues of Racing, it is raining in Milwaukee. The Indianapolis cars are poised and ready to go. They are attempting to dry the track, but it is raining there. That race has not yet kicked out. And speaking about rain, Jerry, it's interesting. There are dark clouds that have gathered over this speedway. I'm looking out over the backstretch and looking above turn number 2, and the sun is still shining brightly, but we are being encroached upon by dark clouds.
Well, the prediction was we may have some late afternoon showers to cool us off a little bit. Temperatures in the upper 90s, as we said all afternoon. It's got to be 115 degrees in the cockpit of those cars, and there is a threat, possibly some dark clouds, and less than 100 laps to go. I would like to see it go all the way to checker.
Bill Elliott is out on the track right now, trying to keep pace with Davey Allison and Terry Labonte. Bill Elliott, who's been able to work his way onto the lead lap. Jerry, I want to ask you a question. Did I hear Dan Elliott right? Did he say that we think we can go the entire distance?
Well, it's going to be tough. You know, they have really been working on fuel mileage.
He did say that, didn't he?
That's exactly what I think he was saying. Let's take a look at the pit stop summary. Of course, Davey Allison pitted on lap 393. He would have to go 107 laps, gas and 4 tires. Labonte, 393 likewise. Elliott has a lap advantage, 394, and Earnhardt, 394. So I personally don't think any of them can go the distance, but I think maybe you plan a little bit of possum down there, possibly, as maybe they'll make someone else run out of fuel first.
Nobody has flashed more than 94 laps, but that's not to say that if we get a long caution in here, somebody could squeeze it out. And those who are chasing Davey Allison, if they figure their only chance to catch Davey is maybe to, outstop him by not stopping for gas, might go for it.
Something else to consider. Normally when a Winston Cup car runs out of fuel, it runs out coming off the banking when the car is flat because of where the pickups are in the gas tank. Here at Dover, because you spend so much time in the corners, you actually are going to get just about every single drop of fuel out of the tank. It's almost 22 complete gallons because of the fact of the car being in the corners, it will actually shove the gasoline over toward the pickup, and you should be able to get the tank almost completely dry.
Okay, Bill Elliott. He is definitely going swifter than he was 100 laps ago. Swifter than 50 laps ago, probably. But how swift? Is he running down in that 25-second range with Davey Allison? Well, we'll let you know in just a couple of seconds. Jerry? Boom.
Across the line, 26 seconds flat. He has definitely picked the pace up. He is coming. And the speed for Elliott, 138.5 miles an hour, 138.46 miles per hour. He goes 26 seconds even. A good lap for Bill Elliott, and I think we may see a battle. Yeah, there's the leader, Davey Allison. He was running a couple laps ago even quicker as Allison comes by the start-finish line.
Okay, now let's see what Davey Allison's progress is. We'll follow him around. By the way, there are two distinctively different lines that are emerging here in the late hours of this contest. Yeah, late hours, plural. That's probably an understatement. Bobby Allison's son, Davey, running low on the racetrack, and Elliott choosing that higher lane. Now, that time, as Davey puts a lap on Kyle, he goes to the high side, but he laps, well, how about that? Exactly the same.
Identical time, so I don't think anyone has an advantage right now. It looks like, 138 miles an hour still. Both of them are running extremely quick, 138.46 miles per hour, and that's awful fast for both cars to be running this late in the race.
Well, guys, you were talking about the Elliott crew saying they might be able to go the distance. According to the Allison crew, they aren't coming right out and saying that's blowing smoke, but they all pitted around the same time. They say here in the Allison crew that there's no way they can go the distance. They will definitely have to see once more, and they feel Elliott will as well.
On the crap table, I will put my dollars on my stack of coins on your square when you said, Jerry, you don't think they can go the distance. I don't think anybody can either.
I tell you what, if they go the distance, they will be, the NASCAR officials will look like ants at a picnic around that car when this thing is over with.
Here is the contest for third. Terry Labonte on the inside, Dale Earnhardt on the high side, and Earnhardt is the one doing the passing, and Labonte is the passee, and right now the passer has gone past the passee.
Well, they're battling up front, and now as we're talking about this last pit stop, it is going to be critical. It's not only how quickly you get gas in the car, it's how quickly you get in and get out of off pit road. You got to come down pit road, get the car woe down. Remember, the car is going to be hot. The brakes are going to be hot. You can slide through your pit and make one simple mistake, and it costs you a few extra seconds, and it could cost the race. So it's going to be very critical. 4 cars in the battle, and we are about 84 laps from the conclusion here of the Budweiser 500, 416 laps in the book.
Jerry, on the radio, on the scanner, we're picking up a report apparently coming from Terry Labonte's cockpit that he has lost a cylinder. He is down to 7, so that probably eliminates any chance that he will have of winning this race. That is, assuming that Davey Allison, Bill Elliott, and Dale Earnhardt all finish. Of this week's race at Dover, of which there have been several hours worth, of only a couple of minutes of which will be on Speed Week next week, will be seen on Speed Week. Of course, the Indianapolis car race from Milwaukee, should that one get underway, and also from the Formula One race over in Monaco. The driving force and racing coverage, Speed Week, 7:30 p.m. normally Eastern Time on Thursdays. And, of course, it takes a backseat to live programming should there be hockey games or the College World Series. But live programming permitting, the show always airs at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Speed Week. There is Davey Allison. Yep, he continues to lead. 422 laps are down, 78 to go. And remember that graphic at the start of the show when we talked about Dale Earnhardt winning 6 times and Ford winning 4 times? Well, nothing's changed.
Not a bit at all. There's Bill Elliott. Of course, the car number 9 of Elliott is owned by Harry Melling, and Harry will be 43 years of age next week, but a lot of people don't realize how those two got together. It was back in 1979 that Harry Melling was wandering around the garage area with his good buddy Benny Parsons. He said, "Benny, I got about $500 I'd like to spend." And Benny said, "$500? You can't get anybody for $500, much less a Winston Cup car." He says, "Hey, I got an idea. There's one little skinny red-headed boy from Georgia back here in the back part of the garage with a red T-Bird. You can probably get a hold of him." Well, sure enough, a phone call or two and a couple of handshakes later, he was sponsoring Bill Elliott. And he bought the team in December of 1981. The rest is history. They've won over $4 million, $3.5 million the past 2 years. And Harry Mellon's got to be a happy guy. It all started with $500 and a handshake.
And I remember a time about 4 years ago, behind the grandstands at North Wilkesboro, Jerry, the main grandstands, the representatives from the Coors Brewing Company were lamenting about the fact they thought they had a line, a firm line, in one of the established teams of NASCAR. They were going to sponsor them next year. Steve Saunders and I were talking behind the stands at North Wilkesboro saying, well, gee, where should we go? Which direction should we head? And I'm not saying that ESPN influenced where they go, but we gave Bill a vote of confidence at that time, and they hadn't made their final decision yet. Sure enough, in a couple of weeks, they showed up on Elliott's car, and the rest, as you said, is history. The Coors Milling, the red number 9 relationship has grown to be one of the most significant, if not the most significant, in motor racing. Bill Elliott, he is now recognized as a veteran. At one time, he was recognized as somebody with potential, but no more.
Do you feel like this is more of a short track here at Dover? It was just high banks, or is it a super speedway?
It's both. It's a short track in one aspect and a super speedway in another. You know, the fact is you do run 140 miles an hour, but there again, you race the competition like it's a short track because there are so many cars that's running so close to your time here, and it is so hard to pass here.
Bill Elliott describing what is a 1-mile racetrack. It's a typical animal to kind of lasso and put it into a classification. I happen to agree with him. It is both a short track and a long track. It's a misnomer to say it's neither because it definitely has the characteristics of both forms. And at 24 degrees of banking, I guess if you had to lean one direction or another, yeah, NASCAR's done the right thing. It is a super speedway. The leader is Davey Allison. Davey Allison putting another lap on Kyle Petty. The winner of the last race at Charlotte will not win today. Davey Allison, the winner earlier on ESPN television, may be headed for his second career win. Maybe we are his good luck charm. Davey Allison continues to lead here at Dover. Lap third, Terry Labonte fourth, and Ken Schrader. Well, it's still Davey Allison's race. Jerry, we are talking about whether or not this is a long track or a short track. Let me introduce a new title for our racetrack, and I'm going to call it a Martinized track, because Ken Martin, who does all of our statistics, came up with this, and I really endorse it. I think it's a very interesting idea. The mid-sized tracks of NASCAR, they're not a short track, they're not a long track. They have some of the characteristics of each. Perhaps the most outstanding performer of 1987 so far has been Dale Earnhardt. Now, that comes as no surprise. He's got 2 wins. He's also had a 16th and a 20th, but some of the other people who have done well are Morgan Shepherd, Rusty Wallace, and Darrell Waltrip in this mid-track Martinized size category. Now, here are the clouds we were talking about a little earlier, Jerry.
And with these clouds moving over the speedway very rapidly, I'm sure they have told Davey Allison, go ahead and push the button. So he began to pull away, and indeed he has. The difference now over 4 seconds between he and Bill Elliott, the front two cars. Because if you remember, if it would begin to rain, NASCAR could call this race a completed event because we are past the halfway, obviously, and last 60 laps of the event. Davey Allison is comfortable 4-second margin over Elliott.
One other driver in the mid-size track results who has done well in 1987 is Neil Bonnet. He's had a 3rd, 7th, and a 6th, and the engine died on him late last week at Charlotte, or he perhaps would have had another top 5. So he, too, probably rivals Earnhardt for the best performance in the mid-size track category in 1987. Well, as Davey Allison continues to show his skills to everybody, we'll take this opportunity for another break and be back with another field report. Davey Allison, leader after 439 laps now, a little more than 60 to go as he approaches Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont Underall's Oldsmobile number 44. Sterling Marlin, crew chief Steve Meal, still looking for their first win of 1987, one that some people think will come.
You know, I might have mentioned that we have a driver that we haven't talked much about, but Larry Pollard from Victoria, British Columbia, former Winston Cup crew chief for Richard Petty and Phil Parsons, is currently driving his first ever Winston Cup event in car number 12. That's the Roger Hamby car. And the reason Pollard got in the car was last week his regular driver, Slick Johnson, on the eve of an event, went through a guardrail on a Saturday night short track dirt event. He went through the guardrail, knocked down a billboard, tumbled the car out in the woods, and was significantly hurt. Now, Hamby has Larry Pollard in the car here, and the rumor, Larry, is that Hamby may put Eric Bell in the car for Riverside Budweiser 400, which we'll see later in June on ESPN.
Hamby, of course, who has tried Doug Wolfgang. Now we'll go back up front. We'll give you a summary of who's on the racetrack right now. A field summary. Davey Allison has led 149 of the 439 laps of the race. There's the number 12 car that you were just mentioning, Larry Pollard. Jerry, right there. Larry's been out there all day long. He's been involved in nothing. He had a long pit stop in the early stages of the race, but it's been a real learning experience for Larry. I bet he really did not expect an ordeal quite like this on race day. Sterling Marlin,
1983 Rookie of the Year in the Piedmont Airlines Underalls Oldsmobile for the Billy Hagan stable, of course. As the car number 52 now being shown in the picture, that would be Jimmy Means. There is Means, the independent racer from Forest City, North Carolina.
Who was 37 years of age on Friday. Donnie Wingo, of course, has been his crew chief for the last couple of years. They've won over $1 million.
And, of course, awesome Bill Elliott, currently being shown in second spot, about 4.5 seconds back of Davey Allison. 10 starts, 1 win, 5 top 5 in 87 for Elliott.
Driving the car number 67 this weekend at Dover is Buddy Arrington. Now, Eddie Birchwald's had his days in that car. Buddy Arrington, of course, a longtime supporter of Winston Cup racing. There's Buddy in the characteristic blue and red. Buddy picking up the blue when he went to the Chrysler products. And the red when he went to the Ford products. Oh, of course, Charlie Rudolph, the champion of DIRT from a year ago, is out there as Darrell Waltrip has continued to motor around all day despite having a lot of problems in the early stages of today's race. He is 3 laps down and being shown in 7th position.
And there's the car number 7 of Alvin Kulwicki, the reigning Rookie of the Year on the Winston Cup Tour from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kulwicki, 32 years of age, finished 4th early in the year at North Wilkesboro and the Wilkesboro 400.
One of Allen's biggest career wins. He won the Milwaukee 200 on ESPN. And there is Dale Earnhardt. Dale has stayed with it. His Dover earnings, $172,000. He's won significantly more than that, of course, in 1987 alone. Dale Earnhardt has already acquired $643,000 this year.
And there's Dave Martin, currently being shown 9th overall, 4 laps down in the Light Boy Chevrolet. His best Dover finish, 2nd, back 5 years ago here in the Budweiser 500.
Benny Parsons, who assisted us yesterday in the broadcast of the Busch Grand National race, has been out there like a soldier all day. 45-year-old Benny Parsons, who has won over $3.4 million in his Winston Cup career.
And we have a pit stop. Dale Earnhardt makes an entry on the pit road unexpectedly early. It cannot be a scheduled stop for the Wrangler Chevrolet. They will go to the right side of the car. Kurt Shelbury and the crew, as another crewman lays prone on his stomach looking beneath the car, checking the left side tires. It would be too early to expect a routine stop. They must have had a problem, Larry.
Although, Jerry, everybody we think has to come in one more time, so if everybody else has to come in under green, it's not going to hurt him in the final analysis.
But if we go yellow, Larry, and get a yellow flag, he is sunk. And so he has made a right side tire change and is back on the speedway. Now he has to be praying that what happened earlier that helped him, the yellow flags, don't come back out.
Well, back to our field summary. Benny Parsons in the Rick Hendrick Chevrolet. You know, what of the future of Tim Richmond? That's been talked about many times. We were told recently that Tim Richmond, who of course will be driving a car that looks exactly like Benny, will run 4 races this year.
Well, they say maybe might be back at Pocono or possibly at Riverside, but we'll see. Maybe I would like to see Richmond back. The car number 88 running back in the field. Of course, that is Buddy Baker. There is Baker, the 46-year-old Charlotte, North Carolina native. Best finish of the season. It was 4th at Daytona earlier in the year. And Baker is apparently slowing significantly on the backstretch in the Crisco Oldsmobile.
He really likes the super speedways, but all the other tracks, Buddy could probably just as soon go without. He likes blue 200 miles per hour. Buddy coming into the pits.
And looks to be a routine stop for Baker. His sons Brian and Brandon and Doug Reichert, the crew chief, going to work on the right side of that car. It's flashing by just in your picture. That was Ricky Rudd. He apparently has a tire going down, we're told. And looks like the right front tire may have been a little bit low on air on the Baker machine. So apparently he will come in and will change tires. And maybe Earnhardt was right in coming in some 50 laps from the end. There's Buddy Baker, the gentle giant from Charlotte, North Carolina, 46 years of age, 6 feet 4, 225 pounds, little fella.
Yeah. Well, now we can say that we are officially in the final stages of this race. The final 10% of the 24 hours of Dover is going to unfold before your very eyes within the next half hour. We are past the 450 lap point. To be exact, 452 laps, and this looks like a walk in the park for Davey Allison. Waltrip in the Oxford Plains 250 special rolls to a stop in that. Is that Bojangles-like yellow? Certainly not a Kodak-like yellow anymore, but the team that's been looking for a sponsor all year long deposits a great deal of smoke around the speedway, and if this brings out a yellow flag, this could really be a godsend for Bill Elliott as well as Davey Allison, but apparently not. We have completed 458 laps. You know, there were 11 Fords that began this race. 2 of them are up front here in the latter stages. Only 3 Buicks, Bobby Allison, Bobby Hillen, and Morgan Shepherd. 15 Chevrolets populated the field. 6 Pontiacs and 4 Oldsmobiles. The crew chief of one of those Fords we were talking about is ready to talk to Marty and hold off on that. Dale Earnhardt, one of the Chevrolets, rumbles down pit road. Dale Earnhardt comes to a stop. The fans in the stand, to a person, all stand up. They're changing the left side rubber, both the front and the back, giving the car a welcome drink of fuel. Earnhardt trying to catch his breath, getting the last gasp of extra clean air before he goes back onto the battle. A very quick and efficient pit stop for the reigning Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt.
Well, Larry, there are 2 cars left on the lead lap. Earnhardt obviously going a lap down now. We mentioned Davey Allison has lapped the car number 11, the ailing car of Terry Labonte on 7 cylinders. When will Davey Allison come into the pits? Let's find out. Down with Joey Knuckles, the crew chief. It's Marty Reed.
Well, Joey Knuckles is taking times here. And Joey, when are you going to bring Davey in?
Well, I really can't say, but we may need some gas, we may not. We're pulling out a pretty good lead, you know, for some good insurance, but we're just riding Star Mountain and see what happens.
Some of the other people said that you would have to fit with about 20 laps to go.
Well, we may think a little different.
Okay, are we playing cat and mouse, or is this team going for broke? We'll find out.
Absolutely great intrigue. I still put my money on the fact they got to come in. Now, one thing that Joey's going to want to pay attention to is what will Earnhardt do, or what will Elliott do? Well, the question about Dale has been answered. Dale has come in, so now the only team on pit road that Joey Knuckles has to pay attention to is Bill Elliott. Be rest assured, if Elliott comes in, Joey will bring in Davey. And whether or not Bill comes in, Joey may know exactly what he's going to do.
Well, Brett Bodine has tagged the wall down in turn one. This may be the break that both Bill Elliott and Davey Allison were looking for. They both may get a chance, but we do not have yellow currently. Harold Kidner still there with the passing flag, no yellow flag, as Davey Allison goes around the Jimmy Means car. So we were still under green. Apparently, Brett Bodine ricochets off the concrete and heads for pit road. The Bullseye Barbecue car flattens significantly on the right side, as you see, making his way down pit road. What a tremendous job Brett Bodine has done all afternoon to keep that car up among the top 10.
He had a 10th. As a matter of fact, that's where he was being shown at the time of this incident in turn number 1 here at Dover. Dick Berggren is down with Kirk Shelmerdine and Richard Childress in Dale Earnhardt's pit. Dick?
Well, actually, I'm with a tire, Larry. It was coming early in the show. The tires may well determine the story of the race, and they have for Dale Earnhardt. Here's the tire that just came off the left side of his car. Less than 50 laps earlier, they took a blistered tire off the right side of the car. So blisters have been Dale Earnhardt's undoing. Recall very early in the race, he was the first one out with a blistered tire problem. The two guys still on the speedway, still on the lead lap, have yet to have a tire blister.
Dick Cowell on that Mr. T horse collar. I hope he's keeping himself cool today. What did that down a few times?
Looks like he's a linebacker. Just came out for a few plays, getting ready to go back in. But an excellent job on the 3 quarters and then to keep up with what's going on. Earnhardt slipping up on the banking in turns 1 and 2, just trying to hang on as the laps wind down. There's the car number 3, the reigning Winston Cup champion. Had his troubles all afternoon. He's been a lap down, back on the lead lap, back a lap down, back on the lead lap, and again,
now 3 laps in arrears.
It looks like he's going to run out of time.
No, Jerry, it's not necessarily prudent to be self-complimentary, but I do want to say something about our team down in the pit. It is very miserable outside today, and Dick and Marty, you guys really have done a very good job. We've been on top of the vast majority of pit stops, and I think that we've had very good information flowing from down there.
I tell you what, the guys up top shooting those cameras, the heat and the sun beating down on afternoon, the camera shots, super work, guys. We're 468 laps in about 4 hours and 10 minutes here at Dover, and they haven't missed a beat. Car number 88, Buddy Baker, has something oozing from the car, and I'm sure it is not Crisco. It's got to be something else that's slippery, and hopefully it's not an engine problem, but he is slowing, and he may be headed for pit road.
And Buddy is radioing that the temperature gauge is pegged. Buddy Baker's car, not Buddy, is hot, and a lot of people have suffered that today here at Dover.
Speaking of hot, the car number 28, as smoke comes from beneath the Baker car, the lead car of Davey Allison. The last time we at ESPN saw Allison's car, the car number 28, it was in Darlington engulfed in flames. Flames some 30 or 40 feet in the air from beneath that car, this car right here, and they've nicknamed the car Battle Star. Now the car was totally destroyed, and they cut the car off right by the 8, just behind the car, the 8 on the number 28, right where it says Haviline. They cut the car off from there back, totally rebuilt the car, and brought it back here to Dover, and it's certainly doing its job here.
Sterling Marlin, only one top 10 finish this year, had some mechanical problems. Maybe because they lost a couple of the crew members from last year. They're still trying to assemble everything. Mechanical problems have been their most serious woe. The car was killed momentarily as far as the fire in the engine, but Sterling got it fired. Remember, he looked like he was poised, ready to shoot it off for the win at Bristol when he was involved in that incident with Dale Earnhardt, Kenny Schrader, and Jeff Bodine. 472 laps. We continue to count down as the number 64 car of Rodney Combs now blows up. We told you about 300 laps ago that all the cars out there were not going to finish this race, that attrition is bound to take a major role in today's contest, and it's really happening here in a big way in the final 50 laps. Rodney Combs, a man originally out of the Cincinnati, Ohio area, Mason, Ohio to be exact, has gotten this ride apparently for the rest of the season. PRW is involved, and they're very pleased to be associated with Rodney Combs, who has moved from the local late models to the dirt cars to, hopefully now, the Winston Cup stock cars.
And Davey Allison showing the way at 473 laps. And the story is, when will they pit? When will Allison come in? How about Bill Elliott? Well, we'll wait and see. They got to come in sometime in the next 15 laps. We'll find out when we come back.
Here's the rundown of the leaders in the race. It is, of course, Davey Allison and Bill Elliott. The only two cars in the lead lap, that is Davey. 1 lap down, the number 11 car of Terry Labonte on 7 cylinders. 1 lap, 7 cylinders down. In 4th spot is Ken Schrader and Junie Dunleavy's number 90. 2 laps down. Benny Parsons has emerged into the number 5 spot, 3 laps down, and Dale Earnhardt is 6th behind Benny. And I've been watching Benny every once in a while on breaks, and he's running very competitively. In 7th, 4 laps down, is the number 71 car of Dave Marcus. 8th is Darrell Waltrip. 9th, 5 laps down, is Neil Bonnet, and 10th is Sterling Marlin. We are anticipating the leaders, Davey Allison and Bill Elliott, coming in shortly. What's the word that you got, Jerry?
Well, there's a lot of activity in the Elliott pit. In fact, Ernie Elliott is out on pit road with the sign, waiting for his younger brother Bill, and here he comes down pit road. Dick Bergman is there for the Elliott pit stop. Dick?
Well, this may be the story of the race. Let's watch this one. They've got to do this right. Tires? No tires. Good fuel. They're going to look at the tires. A quick gas and go. They pour water on Elliott, and there he goes. Just gas and go for Bill Elliott.
4.5 seconds on pit road. Quick stop for Elliott. 20 laps to go. 2 questions, Larry. 1, did they get enough fuel in the car for him to go the rest of the way? And 2, the tires have been out there an awfully long time in this heat. Will they take it?
20 laps. What do we need? About 5 gallons to go that far, Jerry? The lead was 5 seconds before Bill came in. The lead is perhaps now about 15. How will Davey and Joey Knuckles play their situation?
Well, now the strategy is very, very simple. They know what they have to do. They have to get him in and get him back out in about 20 or so seconds. And you see now, that is the leader right now, Davey Allison, and he is about 10 car lengths behind the second place car, just about ready to lap. There you see Elliott in front of Davey Allison, about 10 car lengths separating the first and second place car, and Elliott close to being almost a lap down.
Well, seeing that they encircled this track in 25 seconds, and I'll tell you, if you make a 15-second pit stop, 25 seconds is about what it will take by the time you slow down and then accelerate coming out of the pit. The word is this lap, Jerry?
I think it's going to be very close. They're watching. They are on pit road there in the Davey Allison pit. Joey Knuckles and the crew have the big star, the big Havoline star out, and Davey will make the turn.
Oh, he missed his turn. Davey Allison came in too hot. He almost crashed the tire, marking the inside pit wall. Davey Allison came in too fast, and Davey Allison will lose valuable time and valuable ground. Bill Elliott has streaked out to about a straightaway. We told you earlier that's about a 5-second advantage, and now this will really be tricky. Davey's got to come in this lap because he will have less time to catch up if he comes out behind Bill Elliott. Let's watch him quickly.
Davey making it very, very slowly. A deliberate left-hand move out of turn 4, heads down pit road. Let's see how long it's going to take. Marty Reed is there.
There's a lot of hard stopping down here when he just missed the turn the last time. He's overshot the pit almost completely. The clock is he's already rolling. That's it, 3 seconds and he's back out. I wonder if they got enough fuel in.
Elliott coming out of turn 4 with Earnhardt. Davey Allison back out onto the speedway. He's on the inside of turn number 2, not yet back up to speed. He's on the far left of your screen. You'll see the red of Bill Elliott coming in. He has not gotten back up yet. Davey Allison has about a straightaway lead on Bill Elliott. Davey Allison is now back up to full song. 15 laps to go. The question is, do both Davey Allison and Bill Elliott have enough fuel to go the distance?
That could have been a critical miscue for Davey Allison trying to get the car down pit road. He did a heck of a job just to miss the end of pit wall there. He could have just center punched those tires at the end of pit road, but right now, a straightaway difference. A good 3.5 seconds, making 4 second difference between Allison, the leader, and Bill Elliott in second spot.
Once he made his initial mistake of coming in too hot, he reacted great, Jerry. He really did. He said, this is too hot. I got to pass this time. I got to let this one go by. There was no hesitancy after he made that initial mistake. He went right back out and went around.
But you got to remember, Davey's a rookie, too. He's a rookie driver. This is his rookie year on the Winston Cup Tour and his first ever start here in Winston Cup competition in Dover, and he certainly maintained his composure there.
All right, we will count the laps down for you. 13 laps, 12 laps. This time when Davey Allison passes underneath Harold Kinder. We will show you the interval between first and second. It is 5.1 seconds, so it has remained about the same the last 2 laps. The first time that we gave you was done with a handheld stopwatch. To be exact, that was 4.9. We did that with the electric eye. That time we got 5.1. We'll do it one more time on this lap and see if it's stretched or shrunk.
Here we are, 12 laps to go. Davey will come by and the clocks will start. We will see Bill coming out of turn 4, the red car up to the outside beneath the flag stand, and
growing.
Yes, sure is. I think Davey's pulling away.
Well, we'll try it one more time to see if there's a pattern that is developing here, or was that a fluke? Was Bill caught in traffic? Did Davey Allison have clear a racetrack on the last lap? Well, we'll let you know. Davey is now, and somebody's been in the wall. It's looks like the number 7 car of Alan Kowicki. Alan Kowicki throwing a lot of smoke and debris down the front stretch. He has punched the wall on the high side of the number 4 corner. 10 laps to go.
And Kowicki's car is coming to a halt over in turn 2, still under power with a lot of smoke. We have not had yellow yet, Larry, as they have the car number 7, and Kowicki is just trying to, he's having trouble just driving the car. He is still up in the groove with a lot of smoke coming from beneath the right side of the car where the fender has been in against the tire. The Z-Rex Ford coming back toward pit road, and we are still under green here in Dover.
The car obviously has a very difficult time turning left. Wants to ride up the banks, and finally Alan is able to wrench that thing down. He got it below the white line once, and the car darted back up above the white line again, but now Alan is down on the apron and into the pit area. You can see the smoke there as Davey comes around to complete lap number 492. 8 laps to go.
And let's check the interval again. There's Davey and Bill apparently still getting further back, and we are now over 6.5 seconds difference, and Davey is really pulling away. So unless something changes, we have 8 laps to go. It'll be 7 this time. Davey Allison has a shot at winning his second ever Winston Cup event.
Well, here are the people that are still on the racetrack. Kenny Schrader is still out there. Davey Allison is later. He's coming by the start-finish line to complete yet another lap. Neil Bonnet continues on the racetrack. Terry Labonte is pitting. Brett Bodine is back out. Rusty Wallace is still on the track. So Elliott, of course. Dale Earnhardt running the top 5. Darrell Waltrip, Buddy Arrington, Ricky Rudd, Buddy Baker, the 44 car of Sterling Marlin, Kyle Petty. Terry Labonte is into the pits. Charlie Rudolph is still on the racetrack. A good day for Charlie. Michael Waltrip continues to order around the speedway. Larry Pollard is also still on the track here after 495 absolute grueling laps.
Well, Terry Labonte, a gas and go only for the Budweiser Chevrolet. He is now being shown in 3rd spot, still 1 lap down, and he is a lap down. Schrader a lap down in 4th spot. The front 2 cars, of course, Davey Allison and Bill Elliott. I've got a question for you, a trivia question. To my knowledge, I don't know, of course it could be, has a rookie ever won more than 1 Winston Cup event in a season? I don't think so.
I can never recall a first-year driver winning more than 1 time. This could be history in the making right here.
Morgan Shepherd won once in 81.
Yep.
Ron Bouchard won at Talladega his rookie year. And there they are, anxiously anticipating. That's Joey Knuckles, the lead man at 26 years of age and crew chief. The Haviland uniform on at the radio, sitting there just hoping and praying that the lap will wind down. 5 to go as Harold Kinder holds up the full fist of 5 fingers as Davey passed beneath the flag stand.
Davey Allison has only started 16 Winston Cup races. There is Bill Elliott, who has been able to survive this marathon race here at Dover, going down into the pit area where brother Dan, there is Ernie, make that Dan, brother Ernie will be sharing the situation down there as Danny looks anxiously on, but they do look like a crew that has conceded 1st place and are ready to be content with 2nd. 3 laps to go. Well, you really have to give credit to both of these crews, the Elliott family, who is chiefing the number 9 car, and Joey Knuckles and crew, who has done the wrench work for Davey Allison. Davey has had 11 pit stops today. 11 pit stops in a Winston Cup race. He is going to be the winner, or so it seems.
I tell you, Harry Ranier and J.T. Lundy, the 2 car owners for that car number 28, have got to be ecstatic. People sort of snickered when they said, I'm going to pick a rookie driver to climb in this car. And they put a team together with Joey Knuckles at 25 years of age as crew chief, but they certainly have indicated how much they know about the sport, and the kind of decision they made was the correct one.
Okay, let's take Davey around. Let's talk him around during the final lap. In the groove, about 12 feet off the wall down the front stretch, he nips the white line on the inside of turn number 1. Lets the car drift not nearly as high as he has throughout most of the race. He moves back into the groove coming out of turn 2. In front of the air-conditioned, the climate-controlled horse grandstand. Into turn number 3, drops down low, finds that middle groove between 3 and 4. He'll nip the line coming off number 4, lets the car drift high uphill, and Davey Allison takes the checkered flag. And Davey Allison has career win number 2 in just 16 starts. An incredible story for this team that was assembled over the winter of 1986-1987.
What a comeback. The last time we saw that car and that driver here on ESPN, we said it was on fire in Darlington. They rebuilt the car and re-confidence the driver. They gave him a pat on the back and came it over and did it. Here in Delaware, and a great job of that Haviland crew with Joey Knuckles. There they are. celebrating jubilation there in the Davey Allison pit.
Davey Allison, the first time he has ever entered a Winston Cup race here at Dover, Delaware, comes out a winner. The Budweiser 500 goes to the Haviline Special, the number 28 of Davey Allison, wrenched by Joey Knuckles and crew down in the pits, who were as much a part of this victory today here in Dover as the man behind the wheel. So as Davey Allison coasts finally, the engines quietly head for victory lane. We'll be back with words to today's winner right after this. Davey Allison, hustling the cool suit. He was one of the few drivers who chose to wear one of those. I shouldn't use the word few. Actually, there were at least half of the field that opted for the cool suit. It remains to be seen whether or not that was a factor in Davey Allison's victory. But it's probably somewhat of a surprise that this young man has won twice in 1987. Nobody really thought he would win at all in 1987 before the season began. But they came out of the box at Daytona firing with both barrels blazing, and it became pretty obvious that he was a force to be reckoned with this year. Then they started to show some consistency on the super speedways, and everybody was saying, boy, this boy may win once in 1987. Then he wins at Talladega. He continues the consistency in the big tracks, and now he wins on one of the mid-sized tracks. Davey Allison, does he have the potential to be a threat for the Winston Cup in 1988? It won't happen this year. They're out to collect all the wins they possibly can, because that's all at stake for this team in 1987. The Victory Lane interview, Dick Berggren.
Well, Davey Allison, quite an afternoon for you.
I tell you, Dick, these guys just did a super job all day with this Haviland Star, keeping it working perfect for me. All I had to do was just take it easy, and man, this thing worked great.
You look fresh as a daisy. You've just been out here driving around for almost 5 hours flat out. How do you feel? Do you feel as good as you look?
Well, when a car handles as good as this thing right here that Harry Near's put together for us, you know, or give us the opportunity to put together, man, you just go out there and you just drive it and just keep yourself fresh to the end of the race. I feel great.
So many competitors had trouble with tires blistering. You didn't. How did you avoid the problem?
Well, our car just worked good all day. You know, we try to take it easy on the tires. I don't think we ever had one that was blistered, so.
How about your last pit stop? You headed down for the pits, and then you changed your mind and went back out the racetrack. What happened, Davey?
Well, I turned down onto pit road, and there was so much speedy dry down there that the car broke loose, and I was headed right for the tire, and I had to turn right, or else I'd hit the end of the pit wall down there. But that's why we tried to get out as far as we could so that we'd have enough cushion in case I made a mistake.
People almost maybe expected you to win Talladega. You had so much experience there, but you've not had much experience here. Are you surprised to find yourself in victory lane?
With these guys working for me, I'm telling you what now, these guys are just great, and we've run good at every racetrack we've been to this year. We just had some bad breaks, but they kept it all together for me today, and I'm telling you what, I'm on cloud nine again.
Davey Allison does not even look tired here in victory lane. Bobby Allison, you must be proud of this guy.
Well, I really am. He did a great job, I'll tell you that. Just all day long, just drove the wheels off of that old Ford and did a great job.
Okay, Bobby Allison just showed up here to give his son congratulations. If Bobby can't win, at least another Allison did.
Davey Allison in victory lane. Today's Winner's Circle interview was brought to you by Goodyear Tire and was second, the only other car on the lead lap. Terry Labonte on like 7 cylinders.